What's going on, Breaking Brown family? What is going on? We are here today. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping as you get your libations and get yourself settled in for the show. Those of you who don't know now, you know we have some new people here. American Slavery, American Freedom, March 21st. That's a Thursday, so Monday and Wednesday show. Thursday, book club. We discussed the book. Even if you just subscribed, and please subscribe if you're in there and you just, hit the subscribe button for me. If you just subscribe, you still have time. You still have time before March 21st to read this book and be a part of the book club with us, because what we do here, for those of you who are new, is that we lay a political foundation that undergirds our ADOS advocacy. That's what we do here. So if you didn't know, now you know. So please hit the like button for me. Please take a moment to do that. I'd appreciate it. After you do that, please, you can go to subscribetobrown.com at no cost to you, and subscribe, to the channel. And if that's all you can do, we appreciate it. Also go to, if you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com. You can go to patreon.com/Carnell. You can do all of that good stuff. You can also hit that bell. If you haven't hit that bell for me, please hit that bell. That way you get notifications when the show goes on, or if I do a quick hit or whatever, you get a notification. So please hit that bell for me as well. Also, the first ADOS, this is the inaugural conference, is coming to you October 4th and 5th, 2019. You can go to my Twitter or Antonio's at Tone Talks Twitter. My Twitter is at Breaking Brown. You can go there and you will find pinned to the top of our Twitter the Eventbrite for you to click on. The Eventbrite for you to click on and get your $15 tickets. The early birds were free, but now they're $15, so that we can pay for everything we got to pay for. And we tried to select the lowest possible price point, but that's where we are. And we have a Facebook page, also ADOS, for that conference as well. And any updates that we have relating to that conference will be on that Facebook page. So please keep that in mind as well. Please go over there and join that Facebook page as well, so that we can get that started. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to talk about. And a lot has happened, and what I want to do in terms of how we frame the conversation that I'm going to have, I really want everyone to understand. As I go into this, I want you to understand. I'm not even going to put the article up, but there was a Politico article today which tried, and it's on my Facebook page, but it tried to kind of show that people were challenging Kamala's blackness, and she was ready for it, and her campaign was into it. And I think something strange happened on the way to them trying to do that, right? Antonio and I were interviewed for The Intercept. Black critics of Kamala Harris and Cory Booker push back against claims that they're Russian bots. So what you have here, and not only that, for those of you, remember, we were also in the Philly.com saying some of the same things. We're not bots. We're not saying she's not black. And we were pushing back against that narrative. See, what's happened, though, with people like Politico and Angela Rye and all of that, is now we have a lot of people who are behind the curve. See, what used to happen, let's be clear about what used to happen. What used to happen is that you could say anything about ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, and there was nothing that we could do. Because we didn't have any kind of grassroots movement that specifically did things for us, so you could say whatever you wanted to say about us, and it could just fly. Because we didn't have any, that's why I say the biggest thing that we have to understand is, it's not just whether or not you're in a room. It's not just whether or not you're at CNN or MSNBC or wherever you are. It's how you got in that room. See, you don't to have power, to have any kind of power in that room means that the ADOS community put you in that room. If the mainstream media elite establishment put you in that room, you're in that room as a pawn for those people. You don't really have any power to advocate for your people, even if you wanted to, so you become a tool of them. These articles that are out right now about us have absolutely, this is just you, the ADOS, Breaking Brown, Tone Talks family, pushing us to be a part of that conversation. That's how this happens. And what we found out, one of the things that you did find out during the WikiLeaks thing is that there were actually mainstream media news outlets who were like sending stuff to the White House or whatever to get it approved. They were proofreading stuff. So these people are kind of in it together. And that's their bread and butter. So I want you to understand, even if you go to Fox, you had this guy, the Democratic racism scandal in Virginia and what Trump can do to heal our racial divide. And at the end of the Fox article, he mentioned reparations in terms of assets. Now with him, there was a lot, it's Fox, so there was a lot of stuff in there about debts and loaning. But see, the thing is, slaves didn't loan their labor. And what happened to us as an extension, as an accrued disadvantage from slavery had nothing to do with we didn't get a loan. Right? We didn't loan our labor out, and all those accrued disadvantages have a quantifiable amount attached to them right now. Quantifiable and tangible attached to them right now. And it's not a loan. So we don't need a loan. But the fact that this kind of thing is even being mentioned in Fox News, the fact that this kind of thing is being mentioned in Fox News lets you know that the conversation is changing, and it also lets you know that ain't nobody changed the conversation but all of us. Because I don't have the time to advocate on Twitter like this every day. This is a family. This is why you need a collective. I do it, you do it, Tone does it, we do it. We're all through there the same. We're all out and through there. That's what we're doing, right? So you have to understand how we have changed this conversation. Before you had Hillary approving stuff and stuff being running by the campaign, and now Kamala's people have all of Hillary's people. This is where we are now. But understand that is changing because of us. Not because of them, but because of what we're doing right here. So I wanted to say that as we go into it, but there's something else that I want to say as well. I want to frame this in terms of where we go from here, number one, because I like to frame, and number two, how we advocate in this space and with this increased attention that we have. So here's what, I've seen a lot about this, and I want to address it. With the Green New Deal, here's what the world could look like for the next generation. I've seen a lot about the Green New Deal, and there's been a lot of good writing. This was a very good article. But here's what I want to say. As we diminish the gatekeepers, we have to pounce on this moment, right? And what I will say is that there cannot be a Green New Deal when there has not been a Black New Deal. And when I say black, I'm talking about ADOS. We don't have an ADOS New Deal. But see, what people keep trying to say, and I keep getting this, and we can have a conversation, but I keep getting people tell me, well, Yvette, can't we add an ADOS New Deal? Can't we add an ADOS New Deal to the Green New Deal? Well, hold on. Hold on. You want me to shoehorn this Black New Deal, which is ADOS. You want me to shoehorn this New Deal into a Green New Deal? Well, let me tell you one thing. First of all, this what we talk about when we talk about our New Deal, a Black New Deal, this ADOS New Deal, we're talking about something that is domestic. This is a domestic New Deal. This is something that happened in America, is a consequence of American policies, American government, housing policy, slavery, and not only action but inaction. We're talking about what happened right here that hasn't been redressed. Here's one of the first things I want to show you about when we talk about the Green New Deal in general. When you talk about emissions, that's everywhere. When you talk about carbon emissions, we're talking about everywhere. That's a global phenomenon. Let me bring that up a little bit. The unmitigated growth of carbon emissions. Now, when you go all the way down, look, I want you to look at this. You see China, US, EU, India, all of that, right? Now, if you were to go deeper into this, I can tell you exactly what you'd see. If you want to go deeper into these numbers, I can tell you exactly what you'd see. You would see a bunch of people, brown and white, first white, but now you have Mexican billionaires, you have Indian multimillionaires and billionaires, you have a bunch of people who are getting rich off of both human capital and killing the planet. But I ain't got none of that. That's not me. We were the same thing as the earth. It's the same thing. You kill the earth, you kill the polar bear, you killing us too. It's the same thing. So wait a minute. One of the things we have to start doing that we don't typically do, and we don't typically do as well as we should do. One of the things that we have to start doing is measuring cost. And not only just a general cost, we have to measure what was our cost. How much was our contribution to what's happening to the planet right now? What role did we play? And when you look at that, you'll see in this country in particular, a lot of the same barons of industry and capitalists who were taking advantage of us and putting us enslaved and kept doing it. You'll see that this is the same group that polluted the planet. You'll see, and people say, well, Yvette, we all buy shoes and we all contribute to that. But guess what? We do that because, for those of you who are new here, the Century of the Self, go look at the documentary. We were formerly a utilitarian group of people. We bought clothes because of functionality. It was Madison Avenue and advertisements who changed us into something different. That means for the majority, that is your burden to bear. All y'all people want to pay, this Green New Deal is supposed to be $1 trillion over 10 years. Now, you're going to tell me that we can't do reparations and there's no money for reparations, but y'all going to tell me that we going to do $1 trillion over 10 years for a Green New Deal, and I should try to fit myself inside of that New Deal? You know, I say this a lot, but I got to say it again. By what right do you have to tell me how to fit myself inside of something? Understand that we're 400 plus years inside of this thing and you haven't fixed it. And it's not my fault you haven't fixed it. You just haven't had the will to do it. But I can tell you what, if you want it, we'll do our ADOS New Deal. We'll do that. The Black New Deal, if you want to call it that, but it's ADOS. But let me show you where we're gonna start at in terms of environmentalism. We're going to start at places. We're going to talk about ExxonMobil pumping toxins into a black community in Texas. How about we start there? How about we start a Superfund sites and all these places in these black communities that have become dumping ground for corporations, and start to clean those places up, to clean the air up. I'll make that a central part of our black ADOS New Deal, to clean up those communities, our communities. We'll make that central to what we do. How you feel about that? You okay with that? That's the environment. But it's targeted to us. Because everything, see, the thing we have to understand, when you have targeted oppression, when you have targeted racism that's targeted at ADOS people, you have to have targeted policies to undo that. I'm not going to be on board of some flattening, which is the Green New Deal, where you just flatten everything and we just all gonna have a job at the it's gonna make a universal basic income kind of, because we're gonna go do green job. No. No. I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of targeting, because you see, there's Cancer Alley, and we are dealing with something that's very specific. Quartz. Environmental racism has left Black Americans 3 times more likely to die from pollution. That's very specific. Let me show you this. African Americans are more likely to live near landfills and industrial plants that pollute. Water and air. Let me start over again. African Americans are more likely to live near landfills and industrial plants that pollute water and air and erode quality of life. Because of this, more than half of the 9 million people living near hazardous waste sites are people of color. I hate that term, people of color. Separate these groups. These are not just, there's no such thing as just brown people. But understand what this means. In terms of who we are, understand what this means. There has been if you go and read Color of Law, you understand the zoning that put these pollutants in our neighborhood. Remember the whole thing that we said, we eat the failure, everybody else eats the success. So you're not going to put those pollutants in white neighborhoods. No. You put them in our neighborhoods. And people get cancer and cough up their lungs and chunks of meat and flesh and all kind of stuff, and you don't care. But now you want me to just get on board and care about the planet. Care about me first. It's been 400 years. It's time for you to do, white America, what you need to do. It's time for you to be who you need to be. We have been, one of the things that we've been used as the shoes. Like, people always talk about this as a race, capitalism. No, we're the shoes of capitalism, and now those shoes are kind of worn out. The New Deal got its name from Franklin D. Roosevelt's statement, 1930, from his election campaign during the Great Recession. I pledge myself to a New Deal for the American people. Roosevelt made a New Deal that required black failure, because he negotiated with the Dixiecrats, racist Democrats. And that's part of the reason that you had white Europeans be able to catapult themselves to the middle class with the New Deal and become stable, and we're still here. That is what you see expressed in the racial wealth gap, among other things. She said, I pledge myself to a New Deal for the American people. Roosevelt made the New Deal that required black failure. But see, now you want us to pay green dollars for blacks being used up. Like, we've been used up. We've been made trash. We have been rendered as trash in this country. And you want me to pay the cost of that, of being rendered that. By what right? By what right do you get to do that? By what right? I have contributed nothing. My people have barely survived in this country. And we have been replaced and are being replaced, don't nobody care. But I'm supposed to jump on board of a Green New Deal when you never jumped on board. Hold on. You never jumped on board of anything. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the Reparations Bill. But one of the things I will say, one of the things that I have to say to people who, one of the things that we have when you say, and it always happens this way, whenever you say, like, well, you have to. You say something like, you'll have people who are establishment, either boule or white or whatever, and they'll say, no, now is not the time, and it's not, we can't do it, and no, and the planet's in danger. Don't you care about the planet, Yvette? The planet, that you got to care more about the planet than you care about yourself. Here's the thing. Holocaust survivors are still getting reparations right now. And got more power to them. The Holocaust was real. You deserve it. More power to you. But how can you tell me, in the country of my birth, Well, our ancestors lived through slavery, Reconstruction, redlining, convict leasing, mass incarceration, Reconstruction, the KKK, white mobs, stolen property, theft. How can you tell me that you didn't tell them, no, we just got to worry about the earth? You giving them their money. Nobody's telling them, you just got to worry about the planet. You can't get your money right now. Just hold on, hold tight. Soon as we save Earth, we're going to find a way. No, you're giving them their money. And let's be specific about what's being given. Then this is from France. France, I think, is funding the U.S. or paying for these disbursements. And let's be clear about what kind of disbursements these are, right? These are disbursements from, like, basically, for lack of a better word, let me just read this. More than 7 decades after World War II ended, 49 Holocaust survivors are receiving $402,000 each from the French government in reparations for the French trains that deported them to Nazi concentration camps, the State Department said Wednesday. So wait a minute. You get reparations for the ride. And understand something, this is additional. There's a different article. Like, this is an article from here, from the Washington Free Beacon. But listen to this. Within the next few days, all individuals whose claims were previously approved will receive a letter from the department, the State Department that is, notifying them that they will receive an additional payment of 97% of their prior approved claim amount. Right? Now hold on. France provided $60 million to the United States to distribute to Holocaust survivors and their living families under the agreement. Initial payments to the survivors included $204,000 for those who survived their deportation, $51,000 to the living spouses or those deported, and pro rata amount if the individual died after 1948. So you go back here, you get an addition. We're going back to the Washington Post article now, and you look at this $402,000, right? Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Nobody says to them, just hold off and hold on, because we got to save the planet first. Nobody says that. And that's what you have to understand. Like, one of the things that you have to understand is that in this country, like, we have new immigrants say that I'm brown, I'm black, or whatever. But what you have to understand is in this country, when you read The Color of Law, you realize that it wasn't just, we've had this idea that just like individual white people were racist and that's what happened. But you realize that the government, when you look at those redlining maps, and go look at them. If you want to read The Color of Law, go read that book. But if you don't, you can look up those maps, and they have redlined black areas even if they have professionals in them. And the government said that black people lower the property value. And we're not going to issue loans, and we're not going to back mortgages. So what you have is black people are rendered, ADOS people in this country, we're rendered a virus. What kind of virus, Yvette? We're a contagion to wealth. Like, this government made us contagious. Like, why would you want to live next to a black person? Why? Because you know, and the government said that it was true. This wasn't just a random racist one. Oh, people just got to do better. If people just will stop being racist. No, the government codified this into law and said that these people are a contagion and they will destroy your wealth. And so if you tell white people, even the best of white people, like, listen, these people are going to destroy wealth in your community because the government redlines them. And they don't. And so if you get so many red lines in your community, then your community is trash. Then what do? You say, oh, no, you can't move here because you're a contagion. The government has made you into a disease. That's what happened to us. So you having an individual experience of racism in this country is not the same is as what has happened to us in the country of our birth was our ancestors. Traced back to slavery and sharecropping and redlining and everything that happened, and no wealth to pass down, and not even any careers to pass down. That's why I talk about reparations as a very complex thing. There are people who don't understand that. Well, what if we get checks and spend it all? Reparations has to be a complex thing that involves lineage therapy, loans, disbursements, maybe in the form of a trust, except if we want to spend them in terms of our assets, in terms of buying homes and funding businesses. SBA loans have to be taken up a notch in terms of what we're giving. We should get mentorships since you kept us out of these industries and locked us out. I think it's a very complex thing that a lot of people can't wrap their heads around. But if you can't wrap your head around it, you just can't do it. America created like this capital system and capitalism on the backs and the bones of ADOS. And you have to pay for that. You have to pay for that. And if you're an immigrant, you don't get to tell me, well, I don't want to pay because I just got here. You chose to come. The debt is the debt. The debt is the debt. It don't matter. It don't matter whether or not you were responsible or whatever. You chose to come here. America owes a debt, and you chose to come to America. You can pay the debt or you can leave. I'm unbothered either way. And so what I wanna go to after we did the 402,000 and we did the let's just backtrack. 60 million. The payments fall under a 2014 U.S.-France agreement in which, and these are the Holocaust payments that we're talking about, in which the French government offers 60 million in reparations for Holocaust deportations. In exchange, the U.S. government asked courts to dismiss any lawsuits against the French railway, known as SNCF, and the French government. Now, I want you to pay close attention, family. Please pay close attention to this next line. Greg Schneider, Executive Vice President of the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, said reparations are important. To hold the government's are important for the historical record and to hold governments and companies accountable for their roles. We're talking about accountability. That's what we're talking about. That is what is at hand. That is what is at risk. And I think one of the things that has to happen is everybody has to understand that. If you don't understand anything else, you have to understand that this is about holding governments and companies at risk. I mean, you have to hold them for what they did to us. There has to be accountability. There just has to. There's no other way there's no way to kind of just like to do it and to put it. It just is what it is. And I don't think many people understand, like I can say it is what it is all day. But I don't think many people understand when I say it is what it is. I don't think many people understand what that means. So fam, listen. What I'm saying is this. As we go to the next quote, and this quote is the most important quote. I don't know how many of you know, one of the arguments that has always been made against reparations in this country is very, very interesting. One of the arguments that has always been made against reparations in this country is this. People say this. Well, you didn't get hurt. You individually did not suffer. And I want you to read this very closely. Just read this very closely in terms of what they say, in terms of how they are assessing damages. Just read this very closely. The French Holocaust reparations agreement was unique, Eisenstadt said, because it concluded compensation for the heirs, including children and grandchildren of both deportees and their spouses. The heirs were viewed, listen to me, family, the heirs were viewed as standing in the shoes of those who had died before the agreement was signed. He said, the heirs will receive a portion of a deportee's and a spouse's payments. Standing in the shoes. I want you to say that 5 times to me. Standing in the shoes. That's what we like. What? If we as ADOS are not standing in the shoes, what are we doing? They said very specifically, standing in the shoes means that standing in the shoes means that you also have a claim. Understand that the whole world is moving to coordinate a payment. Like you got France and an agreement with America, and they're moving in a way to make sure that these people have their claim heard. God bless them. Do it. But you're telling me I can't because everybody in this country, well, you weren't there. No. And let me tell you something else. This is very important because it stakes a claim in the people who are standing in the shoes of the people who were the original victims, right? But like, we shouldn't even need that. The racial wealth gap is our claim. That is specific enough. It is quantifiable enough. It is tangible enough. We can show it, and we can show that it is a consequence of American racism and racist policies and racist government. We can show that. We can prove that without a doubt. That is your case for racist. That is your case for reparations right there. That's it. That's all you need. But the second part that I will say is this. Even if we couldn't prove some kind of individual affliction, that would be because America set it up that way. See, if you had set up reparations during that specific period where you should have, if you had done that then, we wouldn't have this issue. But see, you made it. You strung this, listen, America, you strung this whole thing out so that we wouldn't get anything while you give other stuff away to everybody else and make sure everybody else gets their due but us. And let me tell you something. The Jewish people are not suing. They are not suing white supremacy. They are not suing like the person who called into the show. They're suing specific companies and they're suing specific governments. That is important to understand. That's why this can never just be about whiteness in general. This is not about whiteness. This is about a specific injustice to a specific group of people in this country. You know, Antonio has something he always says, like, lineage is rising. And that is something that happens. That is something that happens when, with this historic inequality, income inequality, right? Or inequality in general, wealth inequality, income inequality, the whole nine. And what happens is when lineage rises and legacy rises, if your legacy is loss and poverty and theft, you're finished. You're just finished. You're just locked out. If that is your legacy, if legacy and lineage is rising and your legacy and my legacy is poverty and theft and degradation and oppression, we are finished if we don't get the stuff that we're due, the stuff that we're owed. It's just basic common sense. You can't survive. Like, nobody's making money. I don't know what people are telling you. But you can't, like, with the share of income that labor gets. Labor used to get a bigger chunk, right? Before immigrants and like third world people from third world countries and before unions got degraded, labor got a really big chunk, or a bigger chunk than we have now. You cannot survive now. Like, there's a great article that white kids are surviving great off their parents' and grandparents' money. This is an inheritance game now. You either have it or you don't. You're either in or you out. And we cannot survive without that debt being paid. America owes us a check. And it's not about what we want. It's not about politics. It's about what we need to survive going forward. And I'm not prepared to starve out or fail or go hungry because you won't pay your debt. There is no Green New Deal. You handle this first. You handle this now. You can't survive with 50K. You need at least 500 right now in terms of the way people are moving and what has to happen and what you have to pay for and how expensive healthcare and college and everything else has happened. To make your kid a functional person, that's what you need. You can't walk around and say, I got it, when you don't got it. You got to be able to add and subtract and understand what it means. You ever seen people go into the store, regular people? They go into the store and they buy something and they don't even look at the register. Yeah, because they don't need to. But how do you gotta look? Or I gotta look. And like, our people, our ancestors were the bones of this country. They gave this country the money that was needed to be a country. And then got oppressed to have to eat the failure because somebody gotta eat it. This is capitalism. Somebody gotta eat the failure. And not be moving in the direction of reparations. When people tell me about Ocasio-Cortez, it's great that you're moving, it's great that you're disrupting and all of that, but here's the thing. You grew up in kind of a white community. You don't get to grow up in Yorktown and kind of tell black people in ghettos that we have to get on board with this. I'm not, let me just say, as co-founder of ADOS, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. Like, I just do what's best for my group. That's how I move. You don't get to tell me what to do. And so as we go to the I want to go to this next quote because as we go on in time. It says State Department officials said they had made conservative payments as quickly as possible because so many of the survivors and their spouses were elderly. Ain't that something? The department is now making a second round of payments to those recipients as well as to applicants who file successful claims. So wait a minute. Like, for them, it's a big deal. Nobody made payments to my people because, well, they're elderly. I mean, you still have the people from Black Wall Street dying. One of the oldest living, what was her name? She was in Black Wall Street and she's dead now. And nobody said, well, we have to rush and make reparations payments to her because the white mob and the police, burned down her neighborhood. We have to rush to pay back the property damage that was done. Nobody says that to me or my people. And the question becomes, family, when are we going to hold these people accountable? And don't tell me this ain't the right time. You done had 400 years. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what kind of election you need to win. I don't care whether Trump's in office. I don't care what's going on. You've had 400 years to make this right, and you ain't made it right. And you got to make it right now, or we ain't coming out. Let me tell you something. You have Trump putting in place something to kind of ensure or to kind of press countries that haven't, Poland specifically, in this, done enough to give back property and assets to Holocaust victims. But nobody is talking. See, listen to what this says. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an act that Jewish groups praise as helpful in their efforts to reclaim lost property in Poland, but which the Polish government says is discriminatory. Right? Now, wait a minute. I want you to hold on 1 second. How much land have we lost in this country? How much land has been stolen from us in this country? How much wealth and land hasn't been passed down because it's been stolen or burnt out in this country? Not Germany, right here. And if you are not livid about what we're living through and the fact that we should be an established upper class in this country just based off what we have done, what we have contributed, and what has been stolen. If you are not livid about that, you are not paying attention. And you should be ashamed of yourself. But let me just say this. I want to get to this. And I want everybody to understand this. I want everybody to really kind of grapple with this. Not only have we not gotten reparations, not only that, but H.R. 40, the commission to study reparations. It used to be Conyers who proposed it. This time I think it was Sheila Jackson Lee. We cannot even get that passed. That's not a reparations bill. That's just a bill to study something. We can't even get that. Here's a list. This is a partial list. We're going to scroll it all the way down. Of co-sponsors. I want you to take note of this, and when we get off, I want you to go look at these lists of co-sponsors. I want you to, once we get off here, go look at this list of co-sponsors. We're going to go all the way down. And I want you to cross-reference. I want you to find out if your congressperson is on the list. Do you see your congressperson on the list of sponsors and co-sponsors? That's step number one. Just peruse. We're going to run it all the way down. And after we're done here, you can look it up. Now listen. I want to put the numbers up. Members of Congress, 535, 435 in the U.S. House of Representatives, 535 in Congress with 100 in the Senate, and 435 in the U.S. House of Reps. Those are the numbers. Understand that what I counted in that list of co-sponsors was like 25. Now, don't count the Senate right now. Don't count the Senate. We're talking about a House bill. So out of 435, I saw about 25 co-sponsors of the Study Reparations Bill. Understand that. Understand this. This is my gauntlet, and I'm going to lay it down. And I don't care who don't like it. This is my gauntlet. I'm going to lay it down. If you are not a co-sponsor of this bill, if you are not a co-sponsor of this reparations bill, I don't care whether you are Democrat or Republican or Independent. If you are not a co-sponsor of this House bill, I'm not voting for you, not ever. My congressperson is on the list. But if you are not, I don't see any reason why. If you live in a district where your congressperson won't even co-sponsor a bill to study reparations in this country, why does that person get your vote? Why does that person deserve your vote? You need to ask your congressperson, why are you not co-sponsoring this bill? And you need to let them know, if you don't want to do it, I'm not voting for you. I don't care. 400 years we had to do this. I'm not playing this kind of game. We're in a new America. I want to get reelected. I don't care. Not my problem. Not my business. I'm not voting. I'm not coming out. If you can't co-sponsor a bill this is a bill to study. Like, it just blows my mind. To study how long have we let that go? Listen, no vote. I'm sorry. Well, what if they don't get elected? I don't care. They're locking us out anyway. The Voting Rights Act, they've gutted the Voting Rights Act, gutting affirmative action. Democrats are opening the borders. They're killing us anyway. Listen, this is my line in the sand. If you can't even co-sponsor this bill, then what are you doing? And I have a question. Before we go to break, I have one question. That's the House side. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee introduced that, H.R. 40. You got Senator Booker and Senator Kamala Harris are both running for president. Have you all introduced a comparative bill? A reparations bill in the Senate? You want to run as black people, don't you? You want to run as Negroes, right? That's what you're trying to do. Have you introduced a reparations bill? And if you haven't, then why should I see you as any different than every white candidate that's out there? And the last thing I need in the White House is another brown person making white America feel like, oh my God, we've really done something. I don't need white America to feel good about themselves. They ain't done enough to feel good about themselves. As a group, you ain't done enough. I don't want to see another black face in the White House, especially if you're not advocating for me. People be like, well, they might not win if you don't support. I don't care. What does it matter if you win if when you get in there you're not going to do nothing? Jesus. See, they pulled a hustle. Like with that lynching bill, they pulled a real big hustle. And I've talked about that before. The issue today is not whether or not I'm going to get hung from a tree when I go outside. The issue today is that I don't have any wealth. And I'm getting starved out economically by what happened back then. The issue today is how do you fix that? And I'm going to say right now, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, y'all some hustlers. But ADOS, see your hustle now. We done let this thing go. We learn. We learn from the past. This lynching bill is not consequential. Because lynching isn't something that's happening every day now. What we need now is a fix for the lynching that wasn't stopped back then. We had a lot of lynching back then when we robbed and raped and killed and maimed ADOS people. What we need right now, we don't need a bill for lynching. We need compensation for the people who got lynched and shut out. And you know, somebody said I retweeted on Twitter that Cory Booker told him in person that he would never be for reparations. And Kamala Harris gave you a very weak answer on the Breakfast Club. So you have to ask yourself, listen, life is all about, I will end by saying this before I go to the phones. So much of life, family, is about consequences. And the consequences that you are going to inflict on your politicians. So what I really want to ask you as we go forward, you can't say the time is not right. You can't say, well, this, that, or the other thing. 400 years, generations we've waited and tried. No, this is the time, family, this is the time to lay down the gauntlet. This is the time to say we're not going to do this anymore. We're not taking this anymore. And if you don't want to give us reparations, we're not going to vote just because Trump is so bad. Rome can burn. Okay? In the sense of, I'm not voting. If Trump wants to do whatever he wants to do, I'm going to let him do it. If you're not going to give me my compensation. When I say that, I mean about Trump. I'm not going to go through this and go out and go through all this stuff to go and vote if you're not going to make me whole. I'm not voting for any congressperson or any senator. I'm not doing it. Who hasn't co-sponsored? I mean, not senator because it's a House side, but I'm not voting, and I'm not voting for any senator who hasn't tried to introduce it. Have you introduced legislation for reparations? Well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to hear anything else. We've heard so much. This is a multi-generational effort that we've been involved in. We have done it. We have had conversations. We have tried to be accommodationist. We have tried to do it bit by bit. It hasn't worked. This is it. They're locking us out of America. How do you get locked out of the country that you built? Now is the time. Everybody needs to understand that. Lay that gauntlet down. So I'm about to go to break, fam. Give me about 3 to 4 minutes, set up the phones. We'll be back, and we're going to finish having a conversation. family, we are back. What's going on with that left ear? It always does something funny. Anyway, fam. I am going now to 615. 615, what is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yes, my name is Dean. I'm from Nashville.
What's going on?
I'm listening to all of this, and I'm taking it all in, and it's like just the total disregard and disrespect of our people by those that are running for president, but they don't want to run on our agenda, but they want our vote. And it's funny that Cory Booker, out of all people, in that speech that he was talking about the Virginia governor, when there was photos of him in blackface, and there's all this selective outrage, and he gets up in his words that he wants to tell black people is, if you want to understand racism, you have to understand it from a position of a white person. And
yes!
then when I heard him say that, excuse me?
I said yes.
Yeah, and I said to myself, him saying that is like telling a rape victim to understand why you're a victim, you have to put yourself in the shoes of a racist.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, and when you drew up the comparison, when you talked about how the French government had to pay reparations to the descendants of deportees during the Holocaust, and that they stood in the shoes of those that were Holocaust victims, our people stand in the ADOS shoes. We were made to wear those shoes for 400 years, and since we got to wear those shoes, we should be compensated.
We still wearing those shoes.
Their invitation, excuse me, I didn't hear you.
No, I said we still wearing those shoes.
Yeah, we still wear. We can't take them off either. We can't take them off. It's through discrimination. It's through kangaroo court systems. And from my perspective, yeah, you must. I mean, with the police brutality going on, it's like summary executions. Just forget the courtroom. Forget the trial by six. Just forget all of that. And it's the cost of being the descendant of slaves in this country, and that's what other non-DOS people don't understand. And matter of fact, they don't want to understand because their livelihood depends on them not understanding. So they're not allies. They're more like an adversary, if anything. But I'm just here to just soak up all this knowledge and try to get out to family and friend members, members of my family and friends, about what needs to be advocated on our behalf and who should get our vote. And by the looks of things, Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, they came up short, and their supporters have as well.
But fam, who said? Let me just ask you something. Like what kind of? And I'm not trying to be mean. But what kind of a fully grown black man, ADOS man, says that like we have to see stuff through the eyes of white people? That's almost like saying like if a woman gets raped, like you got to just see things through the eyes of your rapist. Like what? I heard that, but I'm trying to understand like how is it that we don't understand who he is? And then in a tweet today, in an event, Cory Booker basically said, like he said, I was Malcolm X, getting them kids in New Jersey, education by any means necessary. Who uses Malcolm X in terms of like defending their charter schools? Like, do we understand? Do we even understand who he is?
Him saying that, he may as well, any DOS person that he comes across, he may as well just spit off in their face. Because that's exactly what he's doing with that type of rhetoric.
Well, you're right.
I don't have to be politically educated to understand that right there. It's that undertone. He's using that undertone. It's kind of like what Obama did during all all the racial hostilities that our people continue to go through this day, but were going on and heightened during his presidency of those 2 terms. And he called himself trying to walk that fine line, and you're not walking any type of line. You're just walking as if a line doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And with that being said, right there, we're suffering out here, and we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore. And it's just like you said. We as VOS, we should not participate in political charity.
No, say it again, fam. Call it what it is, political charity. My man done coined a new term, political charity. You give away your vote for nothing. Thank you, fam. I appreciate you calling in. We gotta remember that one. Political charity. Understand something. Part of the reason too, Kamala Harris gets more attention than Cory Booker, because Cory Booker's New Jersey. He run off like 1 million votes. She won off like 7 million. Like, he hasn't even proven himself to galvanize a large group of people. Cory Booker, you haven't even shown that you can do that. I don't think you can. I don't even think you can galvanize white America with that little gibberish you talking, that little yogi gibberish. We love each other. I just want to love like you about to break off in tears. So anyway, I'm going to 240. 240. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Sister Yvette, this is Ross from the DMV.
What's going on, Ross? How you been?
Lady, I've been listening to you. We've been hanging in there. We missed you last Wednesday, but hey, you came back with fire as usual. You scorching everything down. I had something to say. This is crucial.
Okay.
I'm sitting here listening to Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, and I'm really breaking down everything they're saying, and it's making me extremely flustered and frustrated. I'm an educator.
Okay.
And among other things, I'm an educator. And I work at Title I schools.
Okay.
For the most part. And I've had numerous ADOS children coming to school homeless, living in their parents' car, living in the SUV. You got to sneak them because they don't want you to let the kids carry food home, but you got to sneak cereal in their backpack so they definitely have food to eat that night and on the weekend.
Yeah.
Cereal. And I'm sitting here hearing these politicians that I'm black, and yeah, let's come together. Like the brother just mentioned about Cory Booker, saying that we got to stand in the place of white people wearing blackface shoes. And I'm thinking about how they're trying to advocate for illegal immigrants coming into this country, and our own ADOS kids. These are brilliant young children who are hungry, who don't have a place to sleep, and they're already getting pushed out at their young age. They're having to use the restrooms in the woods. Now, we're sitting here allowing these people to sit here and try and represent us? No way. Well, we're fighting. This is why I'm advocating so hard. These are for kids. And I hear ADOS that are coming in and say, well, they'll never give us reparation. I said, wait a minute, you have children. You mean to tell me I'm standing harder for your child?
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I have no kids. Come on. You better speak on it, Carla.
I'm not.
Raj, you better talk on it.
Yes. I'm not certain if you read the Forbes article from April of 2016. It basically was saying that the IRS knew that Social Security numbers, they were encouraging illegal immigrants to get Social Security numbers and steal money. Also, they have a form called the E-10, E-T-I-N, where when they're logging their IRS forms every year, we're about to do our taxes or doing our taxes now, they're putting on nephews and nieces saying that they live in America at their address that are in Mexico or Honduras somewhere, and they're getting back $8,000, $6,000, $14,000. And so of our money, they're pilfering our money from us. This is the same money that I could be buying that child a coat so I can be helping the parent. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to make it easier for our kids first.
But what you're saying, but hold on, Roz. Hold on, let me drill down something that you're saying, Roz. Let me drill down one thing that you're pointing attention to. It's not even, like, I understand what you're saying, you're totally right. But it's not even what she's saying about I could do other stuff with the money. The issue is that Roz from the DMV is a citizen. Citizens are supposed to get more. Like, that's how this thing is supposed to work. We have people that bled and fought for our citizenship. And we are not doing what we need to do for that legacy here. It's supposed to mean something. Somebody who is not a citizen here, who has an EIN, is not supposed to get the same things and the same benefits as us. Citizenship is supposed to mean something. Ain't that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm about to close it out, sis. I know I'm getting passionate, so y'all got to forgive me, but I really feel this for us. I've spoken to one brother a little bit earlier. He says, well, I just want America to see black as legal. I said, brother, that is not a tangible. We need tangibles. I referred him to Ta-Nehisi Coates, The Case for Reparations. I referred him to the book When Reparations Was White, and I referred him to read The Color of Law. And I said, once you read those, you will understand that sitting here and saying, I just want to be legal, black to be legal, is not a tangible. Brother, thank me, but one of the things I wanted to thank you for, Yvette, is we must all become like you, and that is a master teacher. Each one teach many.
Thank you, Roz. I appreciate that. And let's all keep in mind, when Roz is talking to us about what's going on in the schools, let's all keep in mind that Kamala Harris sent prosecutors to school saying, you know I have a badge. You know it was the gang. It was the one who was in charge of, like, doing gangs, right? The officer that she sent. And she said, you know, there's a badge on the top of mine. You know, if you're a prosecutor, you know, ADA, whatever, there's a badge there. And so these parents who are going through whatever they're going through are trying to come to the school to parent-teacher conference. But then there's this threat, like if it's 10% or more days that they've been out, that they could get arrested, right? Because you've been sending out stuff with badges on them. And you think that's good because you went to all these places and had these conversations without trying to really understand what happens on the bottom. What happened to these people and not asking. But I know why you didn't ask, right? Because you went to high school in Montreal and your parents are affluent. So you don't really understand the connections. Did you not, you know, I want, you know, people don't understand that Howard University and her going to Howard University, that's an expression of ADOS-ness. It doesn't make her ADOS. You know, I would never, as an ADOS person, send any kind of law enforcement into a school to enforce anything. I want to know what's going on in that parent's life that kid isn't going to school. Are they having financial struggles? Is there an addiction problem? Like, is this kid skipping on his own? Is he being bullied? There are a plethora of reasons that you can do that. But the thing that you do not do, you do not send somebody with a badge into that school. You don't know what badges do to us, Kamala? You don't know what mass incarceration and convict leasing and all that has looked like in this country, Kamala? So I'm going now to 862. 862, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, peace. How you doing?
Pretty good.
My name is Ahanu. I'm calling from North New Jersey.
Okay. What's going on?
I'm good. Hey, listen. I love the movement, and I'm glad that us as, if you want to say A dual S's, us in North America, I'm glad we starting to wake, and we starting to, because that Pan-African thing killed us. Us thinking that we Pan-Africans are thinking that everybody with the same complexion skin ultimately has the same outlook that we have, and they don't. But most people, they come here, they don't appreciate their stay here in North America. Like the last lady said, they come here, they scam off the system. Meanwhile, we struggling. I'll just tell you like this, right? Okay. I've been at the United Nations 3 times, and I had one of the representatives at the United Nations tell me, now this is not for no one to get discouraged, but this is what he told me. He said that the majority of African Americans will never get reparations on the strength that they are not Africans. And he went in and told me a story, and he basically, from that point on, had me doing research, and he said that 100% of us was already here on this land. And he said the majority of us are prisoners of war, and we are not descendants of slaves.
He's unwell. If you talk to somebody who told you that, they're unwell. Like, the majority of us were not here. It's just a fact.
Say that again?
I said if he told you that, he's suffering from some sort of delusion. He needs mental care. He needs mental health. Because the majority of us were not here. That doesn't mean that there were not scattered bits. Who knows? But like the Middle Passage was real. The slave trade was real. And there are a multitude of historians and people who can speak to that. I'm not going to speak to that tonight. I have given a list of books that everybody can read and understand that. And I think people who kind of push this kind of sovereign, we were here first, really don't understand the detriment that they're doing to what we're trying to do and how we're trying to move. So really do your research. The majority of us did not come here. Like, the majority of us did not come here. We're not here the entire time. We came through the slave trade. Like, just a modicum of research will save you that. That's just it. That's all I can say. I'm going right now to 314. 314, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Michael from St. Louis.
What's going on, Michael?
But yes, this is a great topic of having a black agenda. And now we have Cory Booker and Kamala Harris trying to do a bait and switch move. They're trying to say, oh, we signed the anti-lynching bill, which is pure symbolism because we don't have lynching going on at an egregious rate anymore. And now we're calling our bluff. And we're saying if you don't provide us with any tangibles, we're not voting for you. And I believe that will get us the most respect politically in this modern era than doing anything else, showing that we're willing to be committed to an agenda and that we're willing to let them lose, because what they think is, oh, we're going to vote because you're black or because you appropriate our cultural dances and songs. But that day is over and it's gone. You know, that day is gone. And it's due to your work and due to Tone's work. Because I was, like the first caller said, when Cory Booker had he had made a speech about understanding racism and blackface through the lens of white people and acting as if they don't know what that means, as far as with the Gucci, with the recent Gucci scandal, where they created a Gucci outfit with the Jim Crow design on it, and just saying that these people don't know what they're doing. I just think that he's not a serious candidate. I don't look forward to even seeing him. He's not going to make it to even being a contender for being the president. I don't think. Yeah. And I just want to say, keep up the good work, and you have taken off our blinders.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate that. You know, last episode, I called him, I couldn't remember the name. It was like, I called him Goober, but it was Gomer Pyle. That's what he reminded me of. And people in the chat put it in there, but I didn't get to it in time. That's what he reminds me of. Like, I don't understand how I don't even understand why you're there. Like, there's no charisma, there's no plan, it's all, we got to love each other and all this. Like, you're just like a really, like, awkward person. Like, I don't even know how you got this far, but, like, this is where you land. This is where you crash and burn. So, it is what it is. So, I'm going to 407. 407, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, it's me, Zarina. We just saw each other again in Louisville.
What's going on?
Hey.
Hey!
So, I got on here a little late, but I saw that you were talking about redlining, and you're talking about Jewish people, and so I just had to kind of put in my 2 cents about this, because I got a lot to say when it comes to mortgages and real estate and stuff like that.
We know Google.
So I just want to, when it comes to, like, and somebody might say, like, oh my God, they got $402,000 on a check or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really think we understand how much is owed. So I'm just going to, like, give a brief example of one case to kind of paint the picture for people to understand exactly how much damage was done. Okay. So I'm going to pick on Chicago, specifically, and North Lawndale, which is in the western side of Chicago. And I'm not from Chicago, so nobody, like, jump on me or whatever, but I'm just coming at this from a real estate perspective because that's my industry. So North Lawndale went from like a Irish and Italian neighborhood, then it went to a Jewish neighborhood in like the early 1900s. And then it was actually the third largest Jewish community outside of Warsaw, Poland, and New York City. So this is how many Jewish people lived in the West Side.
Okay.
And the industrial infrastructure that was over there was like second to none. They had Sears and Roebuck. They had Western Electric. I mean, it was the place to be if you were Jewish and you wanted to like live a decent lifestyle. So the onset of World War I ushered in, as we know, as what we call like the Great Migration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had all these black people fleeing the KKK in the South, and they're moving to the North. They're looking for jobs, looking for labor, all this other stuff. So in response to these new Negroes coming to town, the Chicago Real Estate Board appointed a special committee on Negro housing, and this is in 1917.
Okay.
So what came out of this was a policy that they said they were going to do a block-by-block segregation to carefully control who lived on the block and whatever. And they basically said, we want it to be filled solidly, and then further expansion shall be confined to contiguous blocks.
Okay.
AKA, pack these Negroes in as tight as you can, like sardines, and when they start busting at the seams, then they can only move to the next block over. We don't want them going to a new neighborhood. We don't want them going across town.
Mm.
So that's in 1917. Then you got the Great Depression that comes, and then the FHA. So the FHA was created in 1934, and their main objective was stabilizing home mortgages in the industry after the Great Depression. So before this, the only way you were going to get a mortgage on anything, and most people were farmers back then and stuff, but the only way you were going to get a mortgage was if you had a 50% down payment, and they were only going to finance you for 10 years. So a lot of people lost their farms, literally, in the Great Depression, all this other stuff. So the government came in and said, okay, here's what we'll do. If you write longer-term loans, and this is where the 30-year mortgage came from, they said if you write a mortgage for 30 years, and then you allow 10 to 20% down payment, not this 50%, it's a riskier loan, but we will insure it. So it was going to be insured by the government for banks writing these loans.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was home ownership is like, okay, we're going to make this available to everybody, not just farmers and all this other stuff. But part of the FHA evaluation process, when they were considering, okay, which kind of mortgages are we going to insure, they sent out and they created what is called the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which is basically where we get the redlining maps. They were called residential security maps. And that basically was just them going around, seeing who lived where, what areas of the city had mostly black, which areas of the city had mostly white, and specifically which areas had deed restrictions. And a deed restriction in today would be like, oh, no, you can't have, it would be like equivalent to like a HOA, right?
Uh-huh.
But back then, they were all out with their racism. They said, okay, in this deed restriction, you must not sell to Negroes. And if you had that deed restriction in your area, they'd say, oh, that's a green area. So it wasn't even that was a place that you wanted to live because it might have been a rural area. But because it said, oh, you can't even sell to Negroes in these deeds, that must be a green area. It could have been Podunk Town.
Mm.
So what's happening is you have this like rapid migration after World War II of all these blacks coming, and they're like, okay, we gotta do something. So they said, okay, we're not going to give them any loans. We're going to shove them over here to this side of the market or whatever, and just leave them alone. Well, black people in the Lawndale neighborhood were a little more well-to-do. Like Martin Luther King was a resident over there.
Oh, okay.
And so these were people who had money. And they wanted to own houses because they know, okay, pride of ownership and all this other stuff. So what happens is this. When you have a banking system and a real estate system that will not give you a loan, your only other alternative is to get a loan from some other kind of lender. And that's where we get this introduction of these contract or land contracts or contract for deeds. So just a quick explanation of the difference is a mortgage, when you get a mortgage from a bank, the house is yours. You have the deed to the house, and you're paying. A mortgage is basically just a lien that they put against your house.
Okay.
That says, hey, you're going to pay me $100,000. When you're done paying it, I'll take this lien off your house. But you have the deed to the house.
Mm-hmm.
When you sign a contract, or a land contract or contract of deed, you never get the deed to the house. That stays with the person who's selling it to you. And they say you will only get the deed to this after you're done paying this loan. Now, mind you, this loan might be 25, 30 years. So you will never have full ownership rights of the house until you're done paying the deed. Similar to like a car title. You never get title to your car until you're done paying, but a car is like 5 years and you're done.
Yeah.
So they decided, okay, well, these Negroes can't get loans. We're going to write these loans, but guess what we're going to do? We're going to hype up how much we're going to sell them for, and we're going to do excessive rates. And this is sort of the beginning of predatory lending in this country. So these opportunists start going in. They're like, oh, you know, you want to go live in Lawndale? Okay, we'll write you a loan. So they I'm talking about 50 to 100 to 150% over the price of what the house should have been. That's what they're going to sell it to you for. And what was happening in Chicago was it was like these houses that were single-family houses then became multi-family houses. It was like, okay, hold on. Can your cousin come live with me and help me make this mortgage payment? Can your grandpa come in? Like, we got to have grandma in here because grandma got an extra job and that's an extra income.
And what happened? And what happens to the house when all these people living in it?
First of all, you're in an area where they're packing you in like sardines anyway, right?
Yep.
So now you've got grandma and your cousin and you and your wife and your 4 kids living with you. So you know what happens. The house gets torn up.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
and then they say we don't keep up. And then they say we don't keep up our neighborhoods. No, we had to move everybody in this house because of how you sold it to us.
Right. Just to make the mortgage payment.
Yep.
So here's what also happens in a mortgage versus a land contract. In a mortgage, you are legally, this is a legal ramification, like a requirement. You cannot start a foreclosure on a mortgage until the person is 4 months delinquent or 120 days. You can't start it before then. Banks try to scare you to try to say, oh, you're in pre-foreclosure. It's just a tactic to try to get you to pay again. But they legally cannot even start foreclosure until day 120 of you not making your payment. In a contract, you got 30 days. It's just like rent. You a few days behind, we could start and it's not even a foreclosure. It's actually an eviction process because you don't have the deed to the house. So what was happening is if you ever got behind on your payment, you were out in 30 days just like rent, even though you're supposed to be this homeowner. Okay?
Scam.
So who actually kind of blew the whistle in Chicago on this unfairness was, surprisingly enough, like a white guy. So he had, he lived in the other side of town, and he came trying to, do his ministry or whatever, and he was making friends on the west side or whatever, and he was like, hey, what are you paying for your mortgage? And when he heard that these people were paying literally twice what his parents were paying for their house, he was like, oh, this is too much. This is crazy. So when the contract buyers realized that it was unfair in their home purchases and all this other stuff, they attempted to negotiate. Like, hey, you sold me this for too much money. I need you to come down on my payment, things like that. Well, so it was a case-by-case scenario, but basically these white people wasn't coming off that mortgage. They're like, no, this is what you agreed to? We ain't renegotiating. That's it. So in Chicago, what formed was the Contract Buyers League, and this formed in the 1950s and 60s. And basically, this was people, they began to picket the offices and the homes of the sellers and started handing out pamphlets and flyers, to neighbors like, hey, we're the Contract Buyers League, and do you have a contract, and let's talk about it. And they began to file a lot of class action lawsuits, and they came up with boycotting. So they were like, okay, in the month of April, ain't nobody paying your mortgage payment. Nobody.
Okay.
We're going to show them. Now, of course, some people got kicked out. But because of their efforts, it actually started to get national recognition. So it wasn't just Chicago that this was making a ruckus in. It actually got nationwide recognition for what they were doing. And those efforts actually gained an audience and led to changes in Congress and stuff like that actually led up to the 1968 Fair Housing Act. And then the Community Reinvestment Act, and then the FHA changing its underwriting policy. Just in that neighborhood in Chicago. So let me break it down for you. 1934, the FHA says, hey, we're going to give people mortgages. 1968, 34 years later, we get fair housing. In that 30-year span, 30, 40-year span, it's estimated that the amount of wealth that was extracted from blacks in today's dollars is somewhere around $500 million. So that's one neighborhood in Chicago about reparations. That's what we're talking about. But we're talking about this happened nationwide. This happened everywhere. So, and just to like further my point, because I'm gonna hop off here. Because predatory lending still happens in today, right? And now because we have infrastructure in place that says, oh, no, we're not discriminating you because you're black. It's because you have poor credit. Even though they built the systems that you have poor credit for. Or no, we're not discriminating. This is just a not a good investment. Even though they made your neighborhood not a good investment. Because of that, because of the structure that's in place, the level of home ownership in 2019 is no better than it was in 1968 when discriminating against you was legal. And that's it. That's all I got.
Woo, that was a class. That was a class. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. That was a class. That was a class. That was a whole class. You got a whole class in like 8 minutes. That was a class. I don't even know what to say. Like, you think about 500 mil just there. Like, when you really drill down what has been taken from us, because what we don't understand is the function of government, and that's why I take issue with do-for-selfers and their ignorance, because the function of government should have been to protect us from that kind of predatory lending. You know, equal protection under the law should have said, no, these people are the same as these people, and they get the same kinds of loans, and there should have been some kind of punishment in place. The fact that that didn't happen meant that there was an extraction from us that has to be repaid. I don't know how we don't get that has to be repaid. That's just what it is. Oh, that's a lot. 734. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Cedric from Detroit.
What's going on, Cedric?
I got a couple of points I got them written down, so hopefully I don't ramble. But the teaching authority was actually first introduced by John Congress, who was my congressman growing up. But, you know, they got him out there saying he sexually assaulted some people after they got him out. The story was dropped. His replacement was Rashida Tlaib. She was not signed on to that bill. She's allegedly just from Palestine. And my congressman now is Brenda Lawrence in District 13, or 14, sorry. John Carnell was 13.
Okay.
And she takes care of what's eastern Detroit, a fluid neighborhood east of Detroit called the Grosse Pointe Community, $1 million homes right off Lake St. Clair. And then going west of Southfield and north, Farmington Hills, and Pontiac, which is in Oakland County, which is another affluent neighborhood. Black lady, Brenda Lawrence, she's also not signed on the bill. So, I mean, you know, even, her supporters may not like even to have this. They've got quite a bit of money, you know what I'm saying? But also, so we're talking about reparations, I didn't hear you mention it. I don't know if you know that there's a rep in Washington State named Pramila Jayapal. She's saying that the families who were separated at the border
I saw that.
have some type of reparations. I couldn't find anything where she was saying, you know, financially. But I mean, this conversation is getting obscene at this point. You see how they're trying to give money to Jews, or they're trying to make some type, like the previous caller said, that they have some type of outlet for illegal people and immigrants to come over here and take advantage of things, even just in Michigan. So in Dearborn, they have the largest Arab or Middle Eastern community in America, larger than LA and larger than New York. It's in Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah, I lived in Michigan for a while. I remember.
There was a doctor who was bringing in patients who were 8 months pregnant and let them have kids over here. And that was what the big scandal was. They had another scandal.
You know, there's a name for that, Colin. There's a name for that. It's called like maternity tourism or something like that. There's a name for that where you just come over here pregnant, you have your baby here.
It's parts of Dearborn you can go to right outside of Detroit. You'll see signs only American. I mean, you have miles, all kind of stuff. Only American. You wouldn't know where you were if you didn't know you was in Michigan, if you didn't see the snow on the ground. Okay? And then, so, next thing is Cory Booker. Same thing you just said. How do you get what his point is? Because he's talking all this law and stuff, this kind of garbage. I don't understand if he's supposed to be a distraction, if he's supposed to help corral black people to Pamela, because, you know, we all just shun him and she's seen as our, you know, like, our hope in this election or what. But I don't get what his point is. I listen to him talk, and every time I hear him talk, and he gives his opinion, I just don't get it. I can't believe this guy went to Stanford, he went to Oxford, he went to Yale. And, you know, it's like almost I mean, obviously, those schools is just it's a machine where you pump in a full of people and pump out. I mean, because George W. Bush got a degree from Yale, so I mean, we already know. But it's just, you know, I don't get what his intentions are. I don't know if he's just trying to, you know, raise his profile up in the political landscape. Does he want to get on different committees? Is he trying to be a vice president, or what is his intention? But that guy is like a head case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And another thing, so I talked to on social media, it seems like a lot of Pan-African people are having some type of issue with the ADOS movement. So the brother I was talking to, because, you know, at one point in time, I would have considered myself a Pan-African. The idea that Africa...
Me too. At one point in time, I would have too, fam. I would have too. All through my 20s, I thought I was a Pan-Africanist.
Right. And it's just like, they talk about, you know, people want to tell me all this stuff. And Charles Yvette was a Marine before. I said, well, look, they didn't have to tell me nothing. I don't know about the bases and about the dictators the U.S. has set up. I said, that's why I didn't go into the service. You know, I didn't learn until I was in the Marine. And so it's just like, I said, well, what is the answer? What's the solution? Well, the U.S. empire is strong. I said, I know this. What's the answer? You don't have no answer besides telling me the empire is strong. And then you want to tell me about Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, and any of them African leaders alive today, coming over to America today, coming to Harlem, coming to Detroit, coming to the south side and the west side of Chicago, to have meetings with black people about letting us come back home.
But let me say this. Let me say this, Carl. Let me say this too. Understand something. So many of these African leaders, when these Pan-Africanists talk, so many of the African leaders in that country are puppets. Like your leader, why don't I hear you? First of all, you're here. You talk real bad, but you here. You got your butt right here in America. But the second thing is, so many of your leaders are puppets for the West. Like, why don't you talk about that? Go and hold your leaders accountable, because let me tell you something. The real Pan-Africanist leaders there who were really trying to do something for us over here, they got assassinated for the most part. The ones that you see over there right now are puppets. And what they're raising in large part, not all, because I have African allies who come from different countries, whether it be Nigeria, Ghana, wherever, who I talk to on this show. But the truth is, y'all are exporting to this country a lot of super capitalist sellouts. Let's just be honest about it. And who want to just get on how they get on. You're not exporting Patrice Lumumba, and your president ain't Patrice Lumumba. Stop playing games.
Right. And that's the thing about it. You look at the richest black man in the world is from Nigeria. He worth at least $16 billion. That's enough that Nigeria ought to be a top-class country as far as education, as far as human rights, as far as life expectancy, as far as quality of life. You got $16 billion. You can self-fund a revolution in that country. The daughter of the former president of Angola is worth about $10 billion, richest black woman in the world. And these are countries that are piss poor. All these studies have done continue to take whatever U.S. aid and sell out their people, sell out their private resources for their own personal gain. That's not an organization that we can really afford to join with right now. You know what I'm saying? If you got some Pan-African people who are sincere about helping us get our freedom, they should be fighting for theirs, and we can meet in the middle. You know, I had to tell a brother, I said, if Haiti wants reparations, I support Haiti's right to do that. If South Africa want to compensate all that land for them white people down there, without compensation, I support their right to do that. And I don't feel entitled to it. But I don't think it's wrong of them to want to exercise their autonomy or whatever it is within their rights to self-define and get what they think is theirs. I don't think they're wrong for that at all.
No.
I don't understand why black people got to be the whipping post for everybody's movement. Why you got to latch on to our faith? Why don't we have to be the catalyst to start the change in your country?
Do you know why? But do you know why we latch on to everything, Carla? Do you know why we latch on to everything? We latch on to everything because we're a lost tribe. Like, and people who say, well, you're not a tribe. You don't get to tell me what I am. Go do something. Like, you don't get to tell me what I am. But see, we're a lost tribe. And so when you're lost and, like, nobody has made you feel, and you don't have anything, right? And you feel like, oh, it's better over there. They tell me that they really have culture. Child, where? You living off $2 a day. What culture at $2 a day are you living off of? We listen to people who tell us stuff, and see, when you're lost, like I've said this before, but I need to say it again. people take advantage of our lostness and our need to be somewhere and our need to be involved in something. You know, why don't they give us, you know, and even if you want to say like, well, you're lost and we want you, why don't you give us ownership like in Jamaica or Nigeria? Why don't you give us something? You know, why don't you, what is your, so how can you say like,
invest in this country.
yeah. Yeah.
If I got time, the last thing is about the Georgetown issue. Georgetown sold slaves in 1838. They sold 272 slaves. Okay? They're getting a lot of attention because they're paying reparations for the slavery, for the slaves they sold.
Yeah.
They said they sold these slaves. They were $500,000 in debt. The slaves that they sold totaled $3.3 million is how much they made from those slaves in 1838. So the owner was $500,000 in debt. What they're doing today is they set up monies for the families of those descendants of slaves. They're not giving them the money, but they set up organizations. They're donating that money to organizations for those families. And the students are paying $27.20 as an extra fee for admissions on their tuition into that school.
But and here's the problem.
Those families.
Yeah, but here and you I think you get into the problem. I'm gonna let you finish, Carla. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to finish up, but I think you get into the problem. The students are paying the debt when the wealth,
Right.
Georgetown and the people who benefited are not paying from their wealth. They're passing that on to the students. That's real slick, but that's not what you do.
And they got a $1.6 billion endowment. The descendants of those slaves aren't even getting admitted instantly. They don't get free admissions. They just get priority admissions as if they were a legacy candidate. That's not enough. And Georgetown is patting themselves on the back, and everybody is smiling and happy. That's not enough.
No, I agree.
It's taking so much extra time that I just had a lot to say.
No, I appreciate it. No, it's fine, Carla. I appreciate it. And understand, everybody need to understand something. Everybody need to understand that slaves were worth more than the whole school of Georgetown. Those slaves were worth more than the whole school. Them slaves owned the school. Like, how you gonna say like we gonna put a fee and we gonna give you free tuition? We gonna give you can come here and get here? No, Georgetown, that's not enough. We can add and subtract. That's not enough. We own the school. We own your school. We're more than your school. You don't get to just take a fee. That's part of our problem too. Like we, as ADOS, we accept too little. When anybody says, well, we're going to do something. Well, all right, at least they tried. I showed you, shuck a buck, shuck. No, that's not enough. Add and subtract. Understand what you need. Understand what your kids need. Understand what your family needs to be stable. Shuck a buck ain't enough. I'm going to 206. 206, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Yvette? Let me
I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, first, I want to say this before I get into my call. I'm kind of proud to be a part of this community. Every time, and I hate kind of being on a hold because the callers always say something really cool, something intelligent, like the sister was talking about Chicago. Man, listen, I lost track of time. I'm like, man, she was talking about some good stuff, and and hopefully, like probably down the road in the future, kind of like when you get kind of bigger and stuff like that, maybe you can start having people that's in different states talk about the issues that what's going on into that state, that we can actually kind of break things down and hear a different point of view from how like stuff happened to other black people in different states. Because I would never knew about that in Chicago.
Yeah,
that's some good information.
Yeah, Breaking Brown family been putting in work. Breaking Brown family puts in work. The ADOS family, Tone Talk family, everybody's been out here putting in work. That's the only way. That's what. See, I'm gonna let you finish, Carla. But the only way this works is if everybody puts in work. It don't work if it's just like one person or two. No, everybody on Twitter, Facebook. I'm out there. Even if I don't say anything, I see you. Everybody's been putting in work. That's the only way it works.
And also, hopefully you would trademark your ADOS mark because I would love to have maybe get a couple of shirts from you and everything else and just
So we have decided we gonna do the shirts to help. We got some conference stuff, so we gonna do that. We gotta make sure we pay, and I want to bring a couple people in and make sure that. So like we'll do that. That's coming. The shirt I've sat on that for like 3 years, but like the shirt stuff is coming. The hoodies is coming. So the little shirts and the little t-shirts, we gonna do that.
My only fear is, Yvette, is someone try to trademark your stuff, and I mean, I think this gentleman, like Norris Shelton and stuff, I don't know, he's been doing DOS for like 10 years or something like that.
No, he's been doing something else like DOAS or something like that. Cause he reached out. I saw him somewhere one time, and it was weird. But like I think, I don't know. I think later on people commented, but like that's not it. Like I don't think people understand that like to do what we do. ADOS is Antonio and I, and like it's not just us. It's like what Antonio brings, what I bring, and the work that we have put in over time. Right? That's what it equals. Like you have to put in work. Like you can't just be like, well, I made a thing. And like here it is. No, you have to diligently put in work, do the research day after day after day after day after day, and that's what we do, and that's what we're doing. And so I that's one thing. So I just want everybody to understand that like we've done this, and like we've put in the work, and we're moving forward. I ain't got nothing to do with everybody else. Somebody said I did don't do. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know none of these people. People reach out to me like the other person in email and stuff. I don't know what they doing though. Like everybody doing all kind of strange stuff. I don't know. I just know what I did and what Tone did. That's all I know.
And you guys did really great work, so I do appreciate you, my sister. My main thing I really want to talk about, we talk about reparations, right? But we never talk about what the heck do we want in reparations, because I can't have like a Cory Booker decide what I need for my descendants and myself and my family. I can't do that. I think maybe one day we might have to just have a sit down, have a conversation, everybody have a conversation what we need. Like one of my main topics is obviously everybody know about Juneteenth, but it's we got emancipated. We're technically, and I could be wrong, we're technically not free. Emancipation, from what I figured out, is switching from the private sector to the public sector. So, and that's why a lot of things when we take it to Supreme Court, we lose because we're not considered truly citizens. Now, I could be wrong, but if that is true, that should be the first thing in our topic. So when we get that stuff, everything else can roll in. But we need to, I think that's what I truly want.
All right, fam. I appreciate you. I'm going to try to get a few other calls in.
Thank you so much, and appreciate your hard work, all right?
Thank you, fam.
I got nothing but love for you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm going to try to get to a few more calls. So, we gotta push this on. We gotta push it on through. I'm going right now to 551-551. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
How are you? All right, I have a question for you. Cory Booker is my state senator, and he is supposed to be coming to my job to give his spiel. And I would love to frame some questions for him, which I know he can't answer. But my question to you is, how will I frame it? What do you recommend how I frame it in terms of so that I don't embarrass myself in front of my Caucasian people? Because then, you'll be looking at, you're an agitator and you're trying to start trouble. You know how it is. When we pose valid questions before our politicians, like, well, what are you going to do for us? And because you haven't done anything for us lately. And
I don't know how you, I think you have to ask them about a black agenda. So, I don't know how you do that without white people going, I don't know, you're dividing us by race. I don't know. I don't know how you do that without that, because that's how they behave. They look at that as divisive. Like all this terrorism and robbery, that's not divisive. But when I ask how you gonna fix it, that's somehow divisive. I think you can ask him how can ADOS or poor communities, trust your judgment I mean, I have a series of articles about how Cory Booker left Newark. Everything from the Facebook debacle to the charter school debacle. I think you can ask him, how can we trust you after your track record in Newark? Like when you look at like the face, I mean, if you look at just the Facebook debacle, you can ask, how can we trust your leadership? That's a very, like, leadership is a very PC question. How can we trust your leadership? After, if you there's some very specific, I won't get into it, but there's some very specific data points in terms of what happened with Facebook and them giving money or whatever, and what Cory Booker and all the mismanagement. There are questions you can ask, like, this happened, and this happened. Just lay the foundation. X, Y, and Z happened. It's available online. How or why should we trust your leadership to lead the country, given this your track record in Newark? And Newark is a small state. I mean, not Newark. Not I'm talking about, like, in terms of, it's in Jersey. Like, understand this is small. Understand this is small. How can we trust you to like lead a country when, like, your management, when you were there was so lackluster? Like, what have you done? What have you learned? Who are you now? Because you don't have a good track record. And I think only thing you have to do is really draw attention. Like, Booker doesn't have a good track record. I don't know what game he's playing at, but his track record is garbage. I think that's what you point out. And I think you could point out something else. I think you could point out to his spectacles. Like, you were really good at rescuing people from fires and saving dogs from the snow or whatever. Right. But in terms of your track record for your people, for the people of that community, like, you can look and, like, they're not better off economically than when you were there.
Definitely not. So
how can I believe that you as president are going to put us in a better position economically when you don't have a track record that shows me that? Please explain.
Well put. So, and my other thing is with him is that I've watched him. I'm not native from New Jersey. Okay. But I've been here for like 13 years, and I've watched him. I remember when he was, in city council. I remember I've seen him rise through the ranks. Okay. And presidency was on his scope, just like Obama. It was strategic. They've all been strategic. Kamala Harris, she has been strategic as well. We have to look at that and just see the game plan and see it for what it is. Yeah. And Democrat and Republicans have failed ADS, has failed us. No, you're right. None of them are forced. You could take the Black Caucus. They have sold us to the highest bidder. So we can't trust any of them. No. Any of them. They're all just shucking and jiving. But here's what I will say. Like they always do.
Yeah, but here's what I will say. Part of the reason the Congressional Black Caucus gets to shuck and jive is because we don't really pay attention. Like, historically, we haven't been paying the kind of attention and doing the kind of advocacy for our group that we should be doing. So we have to change. Right. We have to change ourselves as well. Like, if we want different politicians, we have to be different people. And we have to be informed, and we have to advocate, and we have to be willing to recycle our politicians. If you're not doing and advocating how I want to advocate, I'm not going to be like, well, he the black man. No, I'm agenda motivated more than anything else. And so you got in, and you can get out just as quick. And we have to, if we're willing to do that, I think we can get a different set of politics.
I agree with you. And thank you for taking my call.
No problem. Thank you, fam, for calling in. All right, I'm going to 310. 310, what's going on?
What up?
What's going on, Tom?
Hello? Yeah. So I wanted to touch on three things. First thing, going back to that last thing that you, we're going to give them a little bonus on this Monique Steve Harvey nonsense. Shout out to Monique.
Absolutely.
First thing I wanted to say is, look, every Monday and Wednesday and Friday for 2 years, I see Yvette show on Mondays and Wednesdays and help her set the show up, and then I do my show on Friday.
Yep, we do that too.
If your homegirl, if your wife, if your husband is doing something else on them Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they part of the reason that we in this problem. You know, you don't get to be a grown black ADOS adult and play when you come home from work. This is how we survive. This dialogue, this conversation. And that brings me to the second point. People got to understand, like, the way I see ADOS, the reason why it really took off is first of all, just the calamity of the black situation. But second of all, it's not a hashtag that made this go. It's the dynamicness of me and Yvette having conversations around our personal experiences, our background, and doing the work along with our audience, you guys. So when people say, like, oh, there was DOAS, nobody even knew that shit existed. Nobody talked about that. There wasn't a national discussion. Now, I'm not saying that y'all can't wear that flag. I'm not wearing that flag. That flag with the circle in it, please don't put that on my stuff no more. My flag is the American flag. Mm-hmm. I don't got no disrespect for that man with that flag. But that flag is not the ADOS flag. We have one flag, which is the American flag. American descendants of slavery. I'm calling to explain it to y'all just so we all clear. America is first because we are American. I don't care what you believe, what you think. Your whole life will be here. Your family's life will be here. Many of your family will never leave here. Understand that you are American first. Understand that enslaved is not what we're talking about because we are talking about the institution of slavery. Now, partially is to be able to bring claim against the government that made that institution law. So the whole gamesmanship of dealing with the letters and all this, get off that. Let's get some work done. Them articles don't come easy. The Intercept, we have to push for a week and a half to get them to put that up. Because we got to push our narrative because it hasn't been part of the discussion for a generation. So again, that's not a flag that I'm ever going to wear or print or anything else, not associated with that flag with the circle. The American flag is my flag and your flag and Yvette's flag. That's how we feel. We're going to have the website, ADOS101.com, up in the next few weeks. We got the Facebook page. Join the discussion. Let's build this thing out. Now let's get to Monique and Steve Harvey. Mr. He don't make no sense, Nixon-esque. Yvette, we got to touch this. I had to call in on this. The craziness. You did the interview with Monique. She was gracious.
Yeah, she was
powerful.
Yeah.
I got to, I always thought Monique was talented. I didn't know she was as award-winningly talented as she was when we found out she was the most decorated black comedian out there. But what was interesting to me is when you started to understand her position, how she had a historical anchoring. I'm not saying I talked to her personally. No, you have. I'm not saying she has the greatest historical anchoring. But I haven't seen a black entertainer in quite some time understand their obligation to community and to past. And Steve Harvey don't get none of it. I'm going to read one thing to you.
Okay.
And let's go on and get your opinion because I know everybody waits.
Let's go.
Steve Harvey said the best thing you can do for poor people, I'm going to say poor, not poor, because you know how you say it. The best thing you can do for poor people is to not become one of them. You can't help them people, Mo. That's Steve Harvey. What you think?
What I think is that Steve Harvey is like the quote you just gave is the quote that rich people give themselves to fall asleep at night. Like the best thing you can do to help our people who are mostly flat and impoverished is to do something that helps build a black middle class or a stable black community, right? That's the best thing you can do. What Steve Harvey is now, understand that Steve Harvey is a millionaire. Everybody needs to understand that. He don't need to keep doing this BS to help his family. His family gonna eat good regardless. He's just saying like, I'm just gonna do me. I don't care about you. That's what he's telling you. He's telling you that there's no reason to ever support Steve Harvey as a black man because as a black man, he don't care about black people. That's what he's telling you.
But he's gonna sell you all black product. Like it's all based on
and ugly suits and all kind of bullshit.
And this is, and I feel like what happens is, we talked about this in the report, 10 Myths to Close the Racial Wealth Gap. One section was black entrepreneurship. It was about the history of Nixon and Nixon making black people believe in the Boyce Watkins type like methodology that doesn't work. It didn't work in the 60s when wealth actually was at a spread level where the bottom had some share wealth. It really don't work during wealth calcification. It literally is just like ignorance. It's straight ignorance. Like to believe that you can start a business to pull yourself out of this kind of
like well-calcified America as a descendant of slavery in this moment. I wish you the best. You can try it. But I'll just tell you, I know that 95% of black female-led businesses have no employees. 90% of black businesses have no employees, severely undercapitalized. But what you see with Steve Harvey is this lack of honesty of what he's doing, because he tries to say, in a sense, that, you know, we black out here. That's what he said. So basically he's saying that because we black, we get the right to sell our soul and sell black people down the road and not have any integrity amongst ourselves. Then he continues on and says, it's not about being black or being white. And why'd you bring up being black out here? It's like somebody who's so scattered that they don't understand who they are, what they are, and where they stand. Let me say this again. The way that he physically closed in on that woman's space was disrespectful. These boomer black men better learn to give people their space. This is not just about Me Too. This is about respect.
Well, hold on, Tone. He didn't. Hold on, Tone. Wait a minute. Hold on one second. He didn't just close in on Monique's space. He grabbed her hand. Like, I'd have clocked him right then. That's just, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. We on the show. I'm sorry. But you grab my hand and you pull it down? Who are you with your little raggedy beard, the little raggedy gray beard you got? Who are you to grab my hand and pull it down? Like, how, by what right, man? But go on, I'm sorry.
Well, you can't look at that in isolation of what the way he treated his assistants very recently.
Yeah.
This is a man who's drunk with power and positioning, and at the same time will do anything to hold on to it. And I think fundamentally he is the problem with where Black America went post-1980 as they elevated and lauded like a-holes and like success, you know, and super wealthy people. Like, we lauded those people and we treated them as though they were the thing you wanted to be. But then what happens is that you realize that they're not good people. They're not the kind of people you want to be around anyway. And I think fundamentally we see the same thing with our politicians. We ask ourselves, why is Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, why are they so bad? Well, because America hasn't done enough to produce a good black politician. Come on, not nationally. Let's get it. Ain't no money in the black community. We can't be beholden to ourselves. I mean, these people start off their career trying to be president with no money. I mean, why would you even celebrate this person?
Yep.
And I look at this thing, and I look at Steve Harvey, and I look at that Monique interview, and I just hope that with all the lessons that you learn, you can see just how absolutely, forget wrong and right now. Monique being right and Steve Harvey being wrong. How absolutely horrible the position that Steve Harvey takes is, not only for me, not only for you, not only for your family, but for all of ADO's communities. Because all it does is just leave you alone in a white neighborhood by yourself with a lottery ticket. And then you complain about how all these white people treat you. That's all I wanted to say.
No, I appreciate you, Tom. And the funniest thing is, like, nobody knows how something's gonna happen or how it's gonna play out. But it's hard to, with Antonio's show on Friday and my show on Monday and Wednesday, it's hard to see where one begins and one ends because we talk on the phone all the time. Well, I got this study, you got this. Well, I don't like that. Well, I don't think that sounds right. Well, you see, what do you think about? Well, this is what we do. And so, like, everything is like this co-produced thing because we're always talking. And that's what it is. And I think you kind of have to have that kind of collaboration to do like what we're doing here. But in terms of the whole Monique issue, I think the takeaway, and I'm going to leave it at this. The takeaway, Steve Harvey said, if you listen to it, he said you can't help them people. Understand, ADOS America, we them people that he talking about that you can't help. Now, if you're not going to fight and disrupt publicly to talk about what's happening in Hollywood and to help open the door for people to come after you as comedians or as actors and actresses, then why should I care about you? Why? There's no reason to care about Steve Harvey or to support Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey don't care about you. He said, I just got to help my kids, my grandkids. Now, wait a minute, you're a millionaire. Like, you it's not even like you just got on yesterday and you just got a little. No, you've been here for a minute, Steve Harvey. And you just got to, I can't help them people. We them people. If you're not going to engage in collective, in stuff that's necessary for a collective benefit and for us to move forward collectively, then we should not be looking to you as part of our collective. Steve Harvey, as far as I'm concerned, he a white man. He been a white man for a long time. And that's just how I view him. And that's how I see him. And I don't think he's funny enough. He's not a funny enough white man right now for me. I just can't. I don't want to. I can find somebody else. It's all like it's funny black people all over YouTube. I ain't gotta watch him for what? He's like this neutered like caricature of a black. I can see a real black man or woman on YouTube. I ain't gotta watch Steve Harvey. That's an opportunity. I'm not missing nothing from this man. I'm going to 617. 617. What's going on?
What's going on, Yvette? It's Reggie from Boston.
What's going on, Reggie?
Hey, I was trying to go to bed, but you just had to throw down the gauntlet tonight, so I felt like I had to chime in and just add my voice to that, because I've been waiting for you to come out and say that, but like this is the line in the sand, and if you cross it, you're done. Like that, I feel where you're going with it. You know, that's kind of how I feel about a lot of this. You know, just scorched earth. You know, throw it off a cliff. You know, if I can't have reparations, I'll throw it off a cliff. If you don't give it to me in my lifetime, I'll just do my best to socialize my children, and then they gonna throw it off a cliff.
Yeah.
And we just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
And you know, even if because with black progress or even symbolic black progress, you have the white backlash, and we've seen articles of officials saying this, and Trump has intimated this, that if this vote or if this election doesn't go our way, there might be riots. And then you had that woman a few years ago talking about Second Amendment remedies. Cool, I'm fine with that. We'll throw it off the cliff if that's what it takes. On to HR 40. I had looked at this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't see, my congresswoman's name on that. Ayanna Pressley.
Mm.
So I thought that was very interesting. And what was also interesting is that there is a congressperson, James McGovern, from the 2nd District.
Okay.
White male. He's a white male, and his name is on it.
All right.
I'm just kind of scratching my head, Miss Presley. You said change can't wait. Don't let the white boy upstage you now. Maybe Congress.gov didn't update or something, so I'll wait a little bit. Hopefully, I see your name up there.
Maybe trying to get your foot in.
We appreciate. Yeah. We appreciate the hearings that y'all are doing on homelessness and the Financial Services Committee, because we've said it before, black women mirror black men in terms of, eviction and incarceration. But, Yvette, you said it. I just add to that, reparations is the deal breaker.
Yeah.
And for the spineless moderates that, King talked about, folks on the left, Democrats, the Negro whisperers, the non-profit industrial complex saying, don't take it too far to the left. You don't let Trump win. It's cool. I don't care. It's like I feel like this. We'll just push you to the left till you fall off a cliff into the ocean, and then we'll pray that the ancestors that you threw off the slave ships change the current and carry you even further to the left. That's how I feel. That's all I got to say to that.
Appreciate it, Rez. No, I feel the same way. Like, it's time. It's 400 years, fam. Come on. It's time. It's not even a matter of, it's time. It's just time. That's just what it is. And there's no other way to put it, and there's no other way to gauge it. And if you're not at least, at minimum, on a bill to study reparations, if you are in If you are in the House of Representatives and you are not co-sponsoring this bill, I'm not coming out. That's my gauntlet. I'm not voting for you. This is a bill to study reparations. It's not even a bill for a payment. It's a bill to study. And if you can't put your name on that, I can't put my name. I can't put my little thing, ping, ping, ping. I can't vote for you. That's my gauntlet. I can't vote for you. There's nothing I can do. I wish you all the best. Well, I could get beat by a Republican. Okay, well, then I guess that's your life. I don't know. Ain't got nothing to do with me. So, thank you, Breaking Brown family. That's gonna be it with the 2-hour mark. I know I got everybody in the queue. I'm sorry for the people I couldn't get to tonight. We'll get to you next time. And I've been talking to Tony. He got, there's gonna be a Valentine's Day. I know it's Friday his show, but a Valentine's show coming up. Gonna be interesting. Anyway, fam, please, let's throw down the gauntlet on these people, because if we don't, they're going to replace us anyway, and we're going to be in all kind of conundrums and problems and have all kind of stuff going on. So let's understand, like the Monique Steve Harvey thing is a very good way to understand where we are and to be able to assess like butter biscuits and somebody who's willing to disrupt in public for our benefit, or in a way that benefits us later on. You have to understand that. So please, fam, please do not forget book club on March 21st. Show up for that. And the ADOS inaugural. Okay, fam? Like, let's show up. Let's show up. Show up for. Buy your tickets. It's $15. October 4th and 5th. Please before you leave the show, please hit that like button. If you can't do anything else, please hit that like button as you turn off the light. As you finish your libations, hit the like button. Go to subscribetobrown.com just to add yourself to my mailing list. If you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com or patreon.com/Carnell, and I appreciate it. And until next time, fam, please be easy. Take care of yourself. And continue to do the good work that we've all been doing. I appreciate it.